All right, friends, debt is bad during inflation times or deflation times. I don't care which it is, debt is bad. Now, let me share with you. I'm working with a guy to this morning over the last couple of days. And it's interesting because the question is, should he pay off his home or not? And we're just talking. I got a piece of gum in my mouth. I probably should have spit it out before I got on this, but I literally just put it in. And I don't want to waste a taste. So, guys, all right, make sure it's shaved. All right. So anyway, the question is, should he pay off his house or not? And, all the projections that you run, some show, the house, the interest rate on the house is going to be, you arbitrage, you're paying 4.25% on the interest rate, you're getting 5% on the house, on your investment, so don't do it, blah, blah. All right. I started thinking, though, and I think about this a lot. You can run a number that says in an inflationary economy, holding debt is good because essentially the value of the dollar is losing each and every year. And thus, the actual real value of the debt you owe is going down by the amount you're paying, but also by the value of the dollar declining. So a higher inflation, you would think, would be better for the debtors. All right? Part two of that is in a deflationary time, the debtors are also they're getting killed the other way because the value of the dollar is actually increasing as the economy tanks. And so basically what happens is you borrow $100,000 last year, you pay $1,000 in principal, you're actually only owing $99,000, but that $99,000 is the equivalent of $105,000 this year because of deflation. The value of the dollar is increasing as you get older, as each year goes by. So a deflationary time, you don't want debt. Inflationary time, you do, according to the textbooks. But what's the one common thing that goes with both of these scenarios? What's the one common thing that goes with both of these scenarios? You have to have cash flow to pay the debt. All right? So inflationary time, what was going on in the farms back in the 70s and 80s? Well, remember we heard all the stuff with farms going bankrupt and stuff. You would think that would not have happened because there was such high inflation that the farmers would be, man, all the debt, they're just eating away. The inflation's eating away at my debt. It didn't happen. Because cash flow is still suffering. So even though the actual value of the debt in real dollars was losing each and every year because of inflation, they still need the cash flow to pay the bill. All right, they still need the cash flow. And in high inflationary or even inflationary times, not just more than average inflationary times, cash flow is harder and harder to come by because inflation hurts productivity. It hurts investment because the value of a dollar is losing each and every year. That's what inflation does. It hurts economic production, hurts productivity, thus it hurts cash flow in which to pay the debt. In deflationary times, well, we already know that debt, you don't want debt in a deflationary time because your debt becomes more and more burdensome to you as the value of the dollar declines. The dollar that you owe actually grows, the true amount you owe actually grows in value relative to to an increasing value of the dollar. And so you're paying increasing dollars, the value of the dollars, to something that's worth less. Exact opposite of inflation. I borrow $100,000 today. In 10 years, I'll have to pay the equivalent in real dollars of $75,000 because inflation is decreasing the value of the dollar, the actual purchasing power. In deflationary times, I borrow $100,000 today. In 10 years, I have to pay back the equivalent of $125,000 because deflation is increasing the purchasing power of the dollar. All right. So again, according to economic textbooks, you want to be borrowing in an inflationary time, except for the fact you got to pay cash. You got to have cash flow to pay the balance back. You never hear of a farmer in the 70s and 80s saying, I'm going to take on more debt because we're in high inflation. Never hear that. Never hear of a guy borrowing up to their max limits in a high inflationary time to buy bigger and bigger houses because it says, the value of the debt is going to drop in value as inflation kicks in because the facts are he needs the cash flow in which to pay it. So what's the one way you can protect yourself against inflation or deflation is to not have debt. That's why you don't hear about companies, banks, countries, individuals going bankrupt during inflation or deflationary times because they have nothing in which to go bankrupt for because they got no debt. Paying off debt is the way you can protect yourself against deflation or inflation. Just always remember that. All right, see ya.